What is up on this Friday morning, Big Orange Nation? We said we were going to know the news today. That's why I've said for a couple days he is not officially in the portal. Yet we got people look at the 24/7 portal. I'm not criticizing. It's out there, I guess. So don't take this critical on it. I've seen content saying Mike Matthews officially in the portal. He had never officially entered the portal. Austin Price, VolQuest.com posted. I'm not sure if he broke this. I'm not sure if it was Nakos. But Mike Matthews has requested to not go in the portal. He will not be entering the portal. He will be at Tennessee next year. You know, I know a lot of people, we were over it. We wanted to hear news. It was kind of like you get impatient. You're like, let's hear it one way or another. This is huge, huge news for Tennessee. This is huge for Tennessee. In a room that was depleted, it was down to Brazel and Braylon Staley. Now it looks like you may add Amari Jefferson from Alabama. This was big time news for Tennessee. Hats off to this staff. Hats off to the university for dragging this out as long as they could, for staying after him, for getting him back in the fold. This is big. It's big, and it's a jolt that's needed. I thought the Amari Jefferson news last night was a bit of a jolt because this is a guy Tennessee wanted 2 years ago. He committed to Nick Saban in Alabama. Now he's leaving. And he, at one point, Jefferson was committed to Tony Vitello in Tennessee baseball. So I would have to think he'll want to play both at Tennessee. But we'll see. I don't know how that goes. Here recently over the last – we've had numerous guys, Josh Dobbs, Trayvon Flowers, to name a couple, who would come supposedly to play both sports, and they just end up playing football. But this is about Matthews. This is a game changer for Tennessee. Now you've got Matthews, you've got Staley, you have Brazel, you have Travis Smith Jr., you have Radarius Jackson, you have Joakim Dotson. I think there's a good chance you're going to add Amari Jefferson. I think you still need to add one more in the portal. I think at least one more, maybe two on it. And here's my thoughts on the whole thing, and I may do a separate video on this. Here's my thoughts on what I think the philosophy shift is with this Tennessee wide receiver room. You got to think when they come in, when this staff come in the first year, who was their main wide receiver? It was Cedric Tillman. You think about his game, big, tall guy. Probably a little bit more of a physical guy. Not a burner, but he could still get separation. How many times did he burn people, even though he wasn't necessarily that burner speed type guy? He was going to be the main guy in 2022 as well. He had injuries along the way, and then we had the evolution of Jalen Hyatt, and he just blew up during that time. And Jalen Hyatt, was in that boat of if he would have left after his sophomore year, nobody would have been that concerned based on his production up to that point. Not the potential, but the production up to that point. Well, when you think about Hyatt, what, around 6 foot tall? A burner. Absolute blazer. I think that's what Braylon Staley, I'm not saying he'll be as good as Hyatt. I think Braylon Staley's that type game, though. But you saw the way they were recruiting that wide receiver room for a couple years. I think they went more of a bigger, and I may be wrong on this. Leave me a comment. Feel free to disagree with me on this if you like. I think they went to a bigger, more possession-oriented wide receiver room. We saw how that worked out in here. Yeah, Dante Thornton could burn speed. Brew McCoy wasn't a burner. Brew was brought in to catch the football and to inflict pain. That's what he was brought in to do. Brazel, I feel like more of a speedier guy. I thought last year reflected a little more where they wanted to go than the years before because they brought in Matthews, they brought in Staley, and then they brought in Brazel through the portal. Up to that point, you had your Nimrods, your Lee Cox, Caleb Webbs. Nate Spellman was brought in to get Edwin Spillman. Let's just put it out there and get to the point on it. And I'm trying to think. Squirrel White was a little different. Squirrel White was a guy who was wanted, smaller, supposed to be a shiftier guy. Even though when he was hurt this year, there were too many times Squirrel White left his feet. He dropped a lot of passes. He had the botch on the punt return at Arkansas. To me, when you have this wide receiver exodus, last year there was the defensive back exodus. People were freaked out about it. Well, who's going to play here and what? They went out and got Jermod McCoy. They went out and got Jalen McMurray. They went out and got Jacoby Thomas to add to that room. Plus, you brought in some pretty talented freshmen who didn't necessarily make a big difference then, but you had your class before. Ricky Gibson takes that step. Andre Turrentine was in line to start. So, last year it was kind of similar. You had a big mass DB exodus. Now, you weren't down to 2 defensive backs by any means, but they rebuilt that room, and it was much better this year. It was much, much better. There's no doubt about it. And I think it's similar here. I think it's a similar thing that they saw the guys who were leaving do not fit the system. I just my opinion. I've looked at this and tried to analyze it. That's my thought. I mean, because these guys that are leaving, I mean, Squirrel White was pretty big under Joe Milton. Squirrel White had a down year this year. The rest of those guys, I'm not counting the guys leaving to graduation. I'm talking about the guys who have hit the portal. I don't think they fit what this staff really wants to do. And I don't think we know a lot of what they want to do based on the scheme this year, but I think they're shifting too, and I think it's the right move. You're starting to see a faster, shiftier wide receiver room. So again, you're going to now have Mike Matthews. You're going to have Chris Brazel. And you think of I'm talking about Brazel, you think of the improvement with Dante Thornton from year 1 to year 2. Dante Thornton struggled out of the gates. His first year, he transferred to Tennessee. The lights started to come on, and then he got the injury that ended his season. Chris Brazel made some plays this year. Make no mistake about it. He had some drops, too. The potential's there. I'm really happy that he stayed because I think he has a lot of potential to do big things at Tennessee. But you've got Mike Matthews. You've got Chris Brazel. You have Braylon Staley, who's supposed to be a burner. Again, Travis Smith Jr., Rodarius Jackson, Joakim Dotson, Amari Jefferson. I think everybody seems pretty confident that one's going to happen. And Boo Carter. Boo Carter is going to play on that side as well. I'm curious to see, do they actually let him be a wide receiver, or is he more of a gimmick type guy along the way? We'll see how that goes. Again, I think you need 1, maybe 2 more receivers in the portal. I don't know that with Matthews and Brazel and Staley. I mean, Staley's a little unproven, but Staley got some go in that Ohio State game. So now, anybody that watched that said, yeah, this is a young dude playing who's going to be a redshirt freshman. He did get a red shirt. So the fact he's playing in the playoffs, he'll be a big factor moving forward. This wide receiver room looks a whole lot better today than it has this week. Huge news for Tennessee. If there's any more portal news along the way, I'll let you know. We'll see. I still think they need a running back. There's a guy, I think his name's Angel Johnson, or it could be Angel. I haven't I don't know which it is. I've not looked at any of the pronunciations on it yet. From South Dakota State, they're looking at him. I don't know if there'll be any more running backs possibly with the portal. You got to think interior lineman's still a possibility, as they wanted Josh Thompson, who ended up going to LSU. Defensive line, there's a defensive lineman from Washington State who's supposed to visit. I think Tennessee's trailing Texas A&M and Kentucky based on the articles I read so far on that. But you get them to campus, you never know. And I think Tennessee's good at DB and linebacker, if you could get a big-time safety. I think you could, but I don't know that there's one out there now. But there's still going to be more people at the portal. With Georgia going out, they're going to have guys hit the portal. I saw one of Boise State's assistants who's leaving said we've got guys getting offered 2 to 10 times more the money. The bottom line, to fix that in the NFL, when you tamper, you lose draft picks and stuff. In college, if these teams are tampering, they need to lose scholarships over it. That's the easy fix to this. That's the easy fix to it, because then, and I mean really hit them, 10 or more scholarships. Then they'll think twice about this tampering. It's an easy fix. with it. But, with the teams, Arizona State going out with Boise going out, we'll see where it goes right there. Oregon, does anybody from Oregon hit the portal as well? And then, of course, the next round of games, I think you're going to have guys from Texas, and I think you'll have guys from Penn State going in the portal. And then I think national championships, Ohio State, Notre Dame, just my opinion on it. And then who goes in the portal from there. It ain't over. It ain't over. And, if there's a big-time player in there, I'm hoping Tennessee, where they've only added Wendell Moy Jr., is saving up that war chest of NIL to bring in that game changer. Because I think that's better than spreading it around to a bunch of average guys who come in. You go out and get a major game changer, say a safety, for example, to go opposite of Turrentine, or a big-time pass rusher if somebody goes in. Things look a whole lot better on Rocky Top today. Have a great rest of your day. Frank Rock. It's always a great day to wear the orange. And go Vols.